Good morning, everyone. Yes, we are so excited for our fourth episode of Real Talk with Jenny because once again we have, I heard a lot of feedback from our first episode, and they are really excited to hear more about our special guest this morning. Well, her nighttime. Yeah, no other than Lisa Shiro, and Lisa will talk about more about OCD. Many of us are always they always joke about if someone's like a perfectionist, and they say that, oh, you have OCD, or in our term we call it ok. Yeah. So let's find out more and hear more from Lisa. What is OCD? Is it someone who is just a perfectionist of some sort, or what are the signs of a person having OCD?
Yeah, it's
So, welcome, Lisa.
such a good question. A lot of people say people have OCD, and it's not always correct.
True.
So I'm getting a little bit of a feedback here. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, I'm able to hear you well. I believe that'll be coming from our timeline from live.
Okay. Well, yeah, so let's talk about this. So OCD stands for obsessive compulsive disorder, and it is one of the top 10 most debilitating mental illnesses on planet Earth. It is a very debilitating mental illness. And so you're right, though, Jenny. A lot of people will say, oh, she's so OCD about plucking her eyebrows or something like that. When in fact, it's actually a very serious mental illness that often requires medication to control.
Mhm. It's
That's fine.
already. I'll
I
just,
can hear it
just
later.
an echo. I just lower down the volume. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. You still able to hear me okay?
Yes. All good.
Great. Yeah, so OCD has a couple different components with it. So when people when they use it when they use it in the vernacular, sometimes it's not exactly clinically correct. Um, but it certainly is a serious mental illness. So the O stands for obsession, and the C stands for the compulsion that the person feels they have to do to calm down the anxiety with the depression. And so I think a really common one is like hand washing. And so that, kind of the germophobic response to things. So hand washing might be one thing, but there are lots of different ways a person can express OCD. They can also express it through a real desire to end on even numbers. That's a pretty popular one. So numbers become
Jenny,
very important.
heard about even.
Yeah, so a person might be filling their tank up with gas at the gas station, and they keep squeezing the handle because they can't have it end on an odd number. They have to make sure it ends on a 2 or 4, 6, etc. So you can imagine how that would really create an impact a person's life on a day-to-day basis. So what kinds of questions do you have, or what have you been hearing about? Just kind of curious about it. Can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Can't hear you.
all of us.
There you are. I couldn't hear you.
All right. So, because many of us, like someone who's, example, cleaning the house, she's just, we feel she's just obsessively wanted to have it very, very clean and not seeing any fine detail of dust on the window, let's say, for example. And someone watching him or her would say, oh, I have OCD,
Hmm.
but it feels like maybe she just wants it done really like 100% sure on his and her behalf, that it's just basically just clean and all that. Yeah, is that, I know you mentioned a few examples of people having OCD, right? Like frequently washing hands nonstop. Is that right? But nowadays that we're in town, someone would really wash their hands probably. How do we know? What's the fine line? What's the defining factor to say that, oh, this person might really have might
So
help?
you are cutting out so much I can't really hear what you're saying, but I did hear you mention about cleaning and whether or not that is a considered OCD. So let's talk about that. Are you able to hear me okay? Okay. So let's address this because if a person likes every speck of dust clean and somebody else might look at that and go, wow, you seem like you're totally OCD about your house. You can't stand anything to be dusty. So that sounds like the example you're asking me to address. And so here's the thing. There's a couple different types of OCD. So there's classic OCD where it's impacting their life and they come in for treatment. And sometimes they'll need medication. And then there's OCD personality disorder, and they don't come in for treatment. These are typically the people who like things clean. It serves them well. It's not causing a problem. It's not impacting their life to the point where it's affecting relationships, school, work, family life, recreation. So two different kinds of approaches. And so it sounds like what you're describing is more about like the OCD personality. So that's a little
Yeah.
bit different. Yeah.
All right. So I heard you say that a person with OCD is actually like a depression. Is it like when they are not able to meet this, they do something really odd?
Good question. So it's not associated with depression, it's more often associated with anxiety. So that might look like I have the obsession to clean my hands because I just touched this thing, and now my
Mm.
anxiety is so high that until I can wash my hands in exactly the way I have to do it, my anxiety can't go down. And so they're not consciously thinking about that. It's very much the subconscious thing where the anxiety ratchets up until they can wash their hands in a very specific way. And if that way doesn't go down the right way, like if the towel has a flaw on it or the soap doesn't squirt out right or something like that, like it can really impact their ability to even focus and get back to, say, their job if they happen to be at work when this happens. So you can see how it can be an extremely debilitating mental illness, and it feels like you can't control your focus at all. You have to, you feel like you have to do this thing to feel safe so the anxiety can come back down and you can get about your life. Well, you can imagine that if you felt like you had to wash your hands 50 times this way, 50
50
times this way, and then you had to dry a certain time with a towel and this way and turn the knob off the right way. And if you mess that up, you got to start all over again. So you can see how that would hugely impact, you know, a person's day-to-day life. But there are treatments for it, and I'm going to get to that in this talk tonight. So
That's great. That's great. First, I'd like to greet everyone who's watching. I can see people are coming in. Hi, Sandy. Hi, Joey. Hi, Red. Hi, Ned. And then hi, Stash Steel. Hi, Lisa. Yeah. All right. So I believe this is an interesting topic. Lisa, by the way, has a book and it's all about OCD. Yeah, and she will talk about more about this book later on to us guys. My question is, I know you have encountered a lot of people having this disorder. What are the examples of? I know you did mention that sometimes these people, if they do not meet what they really want, they have that certain anxiety. Is it all right for you to give examples of? Because I'm just thinking washing hands. It could be just a simple thing, but yeah, someone with OCD not being able to do this like multiple times, as you said, like 50 times, would feel sad. Not only sad, but having that anxiety. Can you share with us a few samples of situations like this, or your clients that may have resulted to what they did when they are not able to meet this? For us it's like a small thing, washing hands, but it's a big thing for them if they're not able to meet what they exactly need.
absolutely. So you gave me a couple of questions in there. The first of which is to provide some examples of different types of
Yes.
obsessions, and then like what would happen if they can't complete the compulsion
Yes.
to do that, what happens to them. So let me address the first part of that question. And this is
Yes.
a very popular topic. I would not be surprised if we had a lot of people getting on this either now
Yes.
or watching the recording. It's kind of a mysterious illness to a lot of people, and they feel like they can't do anything about it. So different types of obsessions. Let me give you an example of several that I have seen myself in my practice as a psychotherapist. So tapping sometimes is one where they feel like they have to tap the wall before they walk by it, or they have to tap something to feel safe before they leave their front door. Another
Mhm.
obsession is a fear of harming people. And so they stay always away from certain populations because they feel like they are going to harm them. It really does feel like that. And they can actually see the blood in their mind. They can
Mhm.
see the ambulance coming. They can see themselves in handcuffs. They can carry that whole thing out. We call that a purely obsessional type of diagnosis. Another type of obsession, we talked about the even numbers. Well, odd numbers is another one too. And then sequences of threes or fives or twos or fours. So we might see those too. Another kind of form of OCD might be a fear of I am going to do something so bad, I'm just not going to leave the house, or I can't be around babies because I'm afraid I'm going to sexually molest them. And so you can imagine, like a brand new father, more men have this illness than women by far. You can
Mhm.
imagine, bouncing baby girl coming home from the hospital with mom and dad has OCD because he fears that he's going to sexually molest his daughter when he's never sexually molested anybody. This guy hasn't hurt a fly. This guy has top secret clearance, or this guy never has any history of that. And he's so fearful of it that it impacts his ability to father that little baby. So those are some examples of OCD. So what happens if the person can't complete the compulsion? Let's say they can't tap on the wall.
Yeah.
Let's say they walk by it and for some reason they just can't get to it and they can't tap it. They will likely have a panic attack.
Mm.
And so panic attacks are about as fun as eating glass. They are not fun at all. So the heart starts racing. They feel like they're drowning. Their mind is spinning. Their mouth goes dry. Their pupils constrict. They are in pure fight or flight mode. And so you can only be in two modes in your body, either fight or flight or calm and relaxed. I don't know about you, but I want to be on calm and relaxed as much as
Relax.
possible. So
Yeah.
they are like that fight or flight just swells up and they are just in that state. You know, it's just a tough place to be. So that, Jenny, is usually the result until they can finally do the correct compulsion to bring the anxiety back down.
Oh, oh, that's hard. I never thought that there'll be that outrage. Well, for me, it's a outrage. Yeah. Where is OCD coming from? Is it a trauma from the past? Um, yeah.
Yeah, super good question. And this is kind of the question for everybody. What we tend to
Yeah.
see when I did the research before I wrote my book on this, what we tend to see is there's some contributing factors to it that might cause it to show up in a person.
Mhm.
Roughly 30% of the cases, there is a parent, the first generational parent that also had it or had an anxiety disorder that contributed to it.
Mhm.
Also, nature versus nurture, right? I mean, if they're raised in a household with hardcore paranoia about the world around them, they're stacking up gas masks, they have a bunker built below their house, they're fearful, they're watching, the parents are watching the news all the time. So if you're raised in a home where paranoia is pretty high, anxiety is pretty high, worry is high, stress is high, and it's chronic without relief,
Mhm.
this contributes to it as well. And then sometimes it just shows up. It typically doesn't show up though until late teens is usually when this is going to show up. It's not going to show up
Mhm.
with a young child. I never like to say always or never. There's always the exceptions to that
Yeah.
rule. But by and large, you're not going to see this pop up until 17, 18, 19. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Lisa, for answering that question.
Yeah.
We have a question from one of our viewers. She's Lisa. So she said, I have a 4-year-old child and I'm a bit worried into something and not sure if it is normal for an age. She always keeps her things in order, and when I accidentally touch it and move it, she gets mad, like and like crying. She wants to get enlightened if this is like a disorder.
So I didn't hear what it is she's touching that the little girl gets mad about. What was that?
Yeah. So she keeps her things in order.
Oh,
And then when the mom suddenly messed up the one she's fixing, she started to cry
hmm.
and was upset, even turned into getting mad. Although I know you just mentioned that this will not start until around like late teens or 14, 17, something like that. But Lisa here mentioned that her daughter is 4 years old.
Hmm. Yeah, so 4-year-olds like categories and they like to have things arranged a certain way. She's kind of getting into that, or he's kind of getting into that age where they like that and they like things a certain way. It's just not indicating any kind of OCD flag at that young of an age. Um, I would, I would definitely, same-sex parent is the most important role model we have in our lifetime. And so if this is a little girl, I think you said it's a little girl.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So if it's a little girl, I would tell that mom, I would recommend that mom demonstrate um, that things don't have to be exactly right and that she's okay with it. these kids are watching us very closely. And so if the mom tends to be pretty anxious about, I've got to have this exactly right or I can't be happy, then that can cause a problem. And I don't even know these people we're talking about right now. But I wouldn't worry about that with a 4-year-old. They
Mhm.
really do like to have things kind of in a certain category. And they're also kind of breaking away from the parents a little bit at ages 4 and 5.
Mhm.
They're trying to be a little bit more independent. So I would say that's not an indication of anything to be concerned about, except to role model
Mhm.
that it's okay to be a messy human being.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa, for answering that. Lisa, because she's another Lisa. Okay, Lisa, are you happy with that answer from Lisa? Or if you have any other questions, following up your question, just please type it in. Yeah. While we have Lisa here to help us learn more about OCD. Hi, Robert. Hi, Adam. Hi, Mona. Thank you guys for tuning in. All right. So, Lisa, you did mention that there is a cure for this. Yeah. Is it some?
Yeah.
Is it to take medicine, or is there a cure without taking medicine?
Yeah, so it's not always requiring medication. There are sometimes, though, it's helpful if a person can be on a medication while they're learning the tools and techniques in session. This is not a quick fix. This takes quite a bit of time to work with. And I'm going to talk about some like what I do to work with them to help them calm the symptoms down.
Yeah.
But there's a few antidepressants that tend to help with the anxiety with it. So one of the best treatments that I have seen is kind of a combination of
Mm-hmm.
medication along with some hardcore exposure with attitude. That's what I like to call it. Um,
Okay.
so the most common treatment for OCD is exposure therapy, but I like to take it one step further, and I call it exposure with attitude. And so while the person doesn't always require the medication, um, this exposure with attitude really does help a lot. And so it looks something like this. Would you like me to talk about an example of how that would look?
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but your frame kind of froze for a moment.
Oh, all right. Sorry about that. Yeah. So yes, we are happy to hear like examples of how is it done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exposure with attitude. I'm guessing, but I'm not sure if
Mhm.
that's right. So it's showing it bluntly, the attitude that your kids should behave, something like that. So I'll stop
Yeah.
guessing. I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, no, this is good. So when I'm working with adults, typically are adults that I'm working with. So let's talk about a couple things though first, because I think it will help kind of set the stage. When a person has OCD, classic OCD, let's use the hand washing as an example for simplicity's sake. If a person has OCD with hand washing and they have to wash their hands a certain way for say 50 times and then pat dry on a perfect towel so many times and turn off the spigots a certain way, um, what they're doing is trying to get the anxiety to go down. And so they're trying to get away from that feeling of anxiety. It's almost like, I can't take it. I got to get this to go away. I can't take the anxiety that goes with this. So that's very classic. And anybody with OCD will tell you, oh, yeah, because as soon as they feel dirty, whoop, the anxiety goes up. And they don't like it. They don't like it. They don't like it. And so they're trying to look for a way to bring that back down. So the reason I'm saying that is because if you're trying to avoid something, think about what the opposite of avoiding is. The opposite of avoiding is attacking. Are you catching what I'm throwing? I mean, if I ask you to what's the opposite of avoiding, it's going to be going towards something, right? You're going right toward it. And so with OCD, with the person who is that, you know, washing his hands a certain way over and over and over and over and over,
Yeah.
as what I will do in the treatment, either it's in his home or in my office, I will purposely make him get his hands dirty. I will have him hold something that's filthy. And I can watch a panic attack about to happen, but here's where the exposure comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, people don't like this treatment. It is not fun at all. It is not like, oh, how are you doing? How was your week? This is like
Yeah.
hardcore therapy. So I might have him hold something very disgusting, like a shoehorn that's been used over and over and over on people's dirty feet. Like I'll have him hold it. And as soon as the feeling wells up with the anxiety, I will have him be thankful for it. I'm so glad. I feel like crap. This is great. This is what I'm working on. I'm so glad to be uncomfortable. I love feeling uncomfortable. I knew you would show up. I knew anxiety was going to show up. I'm so glad you're here. So it's almost like they're being joyful that they're uncomfortable, because that's the opposite. And so here's why that works like a charm.
Mm-hmm.
If the person wants to have the opposite reaction to OCD, then they have to respond to it in the opposite way, because what they're doing isn't working. What they're doing is, I got to get rid of this. I got to get rid of this. I can't take it. Yeah, you can.
Mm-hmm.
You can handle a whole lot of stuff. Humans are very resilient. And over time, that aggressive stance where you're going toward the discomfort and
Mm-hmm.
purposefully making your brain uncomfortable, over time, eventually it gets desensitized and it begins to level off slightly. It's a very slow roll. It's a slow roll, but I have watched it happen. It's a game changer. It changes their life.
I can just imagine when someone doesn't want to do it. What kind of reactions do you see? I can imagine probably someone crying just before touching those things that they don't want to touch. Did someone just run away? I mean, I'm just curious.
So, yeah, these are really
I'm
good.
imagining the whole thing of what's happening. Someone
Yeah,
doesn't want this, and the therapy for that is actually go for it.
go right toward the very thing that you're trying to get away from.
Yeah.
So, what is the responses? I get called names.
Oh.
I get people to ask me to leave their home. I get kicked out. I get yelled at. They cry. They have panic attacks. And so it takes a level of boundaries to kind of deal with this. I don't take any of it personally, but we talk about how difficult it's going to be ahead of time. But here's what we know for sure: whether or not you have OCD, whether or not you have a mental disorder, it's not so much what happens to us in life, it's that little story we attach to every event that determines how we're going to respond to it.
Mhm.
How do I know that? Because the same thing, and I know all of you are going to be like, oh, yeah, that's so true. The same thing can happen to two different people, and they will react in two very different ways.
Yeah.
Why is that? Look at COVID-19. You have some people that haven't left their home in 2.5 months, and not because
Yeah.
they're quarantined, they're healthy. But they're so fearful because they think they're going to die if they get it. And these are healthy people. They don't have
Mhm.
immune issues. But then you have some people who are going, yeah, I'm going to be careful, but I'm going to go live my life. I'm going to be smart, but I'm going to go live my life and go on bike rides and do stuff. So why is that? It's the story they tell themselves. Anyway, I know I'm talking a lot here, but it's true
No,
though.
no. I
Story
mean,
is
yeah, we're
powerful.
listening because we're actually curious. And yeah, and we thank you for that, for being someone who's able to help, people with OCD. So okay, so that's one thing. That's exposure with attitude. Is there anything else that we can do, or yeah, to cure OCD? Okay. Before we move on to your few answers, we'd like to greet everyone who just came in. Hi, Army, Elmer, Roseanne, Eugene, Anel, Edsa, Pam. Oh, Lisa. Lisa's back. She replied saying, "Thank you very much. I got caught from the answer, Miss Lisa. And it's obviously parents are the mirror of their kids, and kids adopt what parents react in certain things. It's a relief. Now I should be changing my way. Thank you." So that's so that's from Lisa. Cecil is also here. Say hello, Cecil. Marife, hello there. All right. And I saw Nanette already started asking, is there any treatment? So yeah, we're already here on Nanette's question. So let's go back. Is there any other cure
Yeah,
aside
there
from
is.
exposure with
Yeah,
attitude?
yeah. So, and that's what I wrote my book on, was there's other pieces to this that can help. And there is no one like antidote for everything. I mean, every person is unique in the way that they express this. And so I'm always looking at the person first, and then we kind of look at the symptoms. And so what I've noticed is um, for the OCD, where a person feels like they're going to hurt somebody, or they're going to have sex with somebody if they see them, or they just fear they can't be around kids because they feel like they're going to molest them. Like, these are just thoughts. They're not necessarily compulsions that they do something about. So for treating that, and some OCD, I have found that there's piece another piece to the equation that can help with some people, and that's called EMDR therapy. And so there may be some people watching this now or on the recording who have heard of EMDR. So I am an EMDR therapist, and so people come to me specifically for that. So EMDR is going to force them, for example, let's say that somebody feels like they can't look at um, they can't look at little kids without looking straight at their crotch. I'm just being honest here. This is one of the situations. Well, if EMDR therapy, I will bring it up on my laptop, an image of a little girl in a bikini, like I don't know, 10-year-old or 8-year-old. This is the very thing, like, this person is going, oh, no, I'm a bad person. I can't look at a girl in a bikini because I'll look right at her breast or her crotch. And so when I do EMDR, I will attach equipment to calm down their brain while they're looking at it, because there's a story that they're telling themselves about it. And so it literally begins to calm the brain down, and they feel calmer through the process. And so pretty soon I can open up the image, and they can look at it, and they can look at the breast or the crotch, but not feel so bad about it. Like, they just go, oh, it's a girl in a bikini. They glance up and down like anybody would, and then they move on to the next topic. Now, this takes some time, but it's very effective. And so that's called EMDR treatment. And the workbook that I wrote and the book that I wrote kind of talks about EMDR treatment with this. It's very, very helpful.
Mhm. So it's a machine that you put in your head while you're asking someone to, let's say, for example, that image that you did mention, he will look at if his OCD is not looking into that part.
So there's machines that do it. You can also do it with your hand, kind of going back and forth in front of their eyes. You can do it that way. It was hurting my shoulder after years and years of that. And so I bought a machine that makes their eyes kind of look back and forth. They hear tones in their ears. They have little vibrating pads in their hands or under their legs. So I'm just trying to have it jump back and forth across the hemispheres of the brain, back and forth, back and forth. But it seems to relax them while they're looking at the same image that normally disturbs them greatly. So this is not a quick fix, and I keep saying that because I don't want to give false hope that, oh, I'm just going to go and have a couple treatments, this is done. Most people that I'm working with are on medication. And so there are some antidepressants that tend to work pretty well for that. I would like to at least talk about um, things that a person can do to help themselves too, though. And the way that we can help ourselves if we do have OCD or those pure obsessions that make us feel really, really bad as a human being, again, the best treatment is to go toward the very thing that you fear and be grateful for the discomfort. And that's not going to be any fun at all. It's going to feel
Yeah,
awful.
yeah, I can
Um,
imagine.
yeah. Yeah, so think about this for a second. This is really helpful to think about this analogy. And when I say this, people go, oh, yeah, I totally get that. So let's say that you're going to jump out of an airplane today at 10,000 feet, and you go up and you're up there at 10,000 feet, and the pilot's like, okay, let's jump. And you're like,
Oh,
no.
nah.
So the plane comes back down to the ground. Well, what do you think happened to your anxiety? Of course, it goes down as soon as you start descending. You decided not to jump, even though it was totally safe to jump. You've been trained, you were going to tandem jump. And so then the plane goes up again, and now you decide that, okay, I'll do it. And then you jump. Right when you jump, your anxiety goes zip, right?
Yeah.
Because you've never done this before. It's a whole new thing. But guess
Oh,
what happens the third time you go up?
you must be enjoying it already.
A little bit less hard to jump out of the door. I mean, this is the same thing. You just faced your fears and jumped out a perfectly normal airplane. Doesn't make any
Mhm.
sense to the brain at all, but it was exhilarating. It was a goal you had. Every time you go up in the plane, the anxiety is going to be down just a little bit. So that's what we're talking about. That's true classic desensitization. Pretty extreme example, but
Yeah. Um, so we did mention earlier about exposure with attitude. Can someone um be healed with OCD just with one of these um treatment that you mentioned? Or it goes like combo. You need to go for something like EMDR and exposure with attitude.
well, it's hard to say. I mean, every person's a little different with this. I find that if we hit it with a combination of both, we're going to have a much better chance. If the person is on an antidepressant that helps with anxiety, also, we're going to have a much better ability to do it. However, there are some people who just like to do this hardcore without meds. It might take a little bit longer, but they maybe philosophically they don't want to take any pharmaceuticals, and so we honor that. You know, if that's what they want to do. Um, but it's hard to say, like every client, every patient's so different in how they present, you know.
Yeah.
Some people come in to see me and they have been suffering for 20 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're undoing and unpacking a lot of stuff in those sessions before we start treating it. But yeah, you know, you have to feed anxiety to keep it alive, just like you do depression. You got to feed this stuff to keep it alive. And so, one of the ways we're feeding anxiety is we're trying to get rid of it. And so,
Mm,
every time we come close to that thing that causes us anxiety and then we get away from it, we just reinforce the fear of it when really it was just a thought.
everything
So,
is in the head, yeah, in the mind.
yeah, yeah.
in your experience, what is like the shortest time that a person um got, I mean, healed with his or her OCD?
The shortest treatment time where they're healed.
Yeah.
Um, so there is a saying in the psychological world where we can't fix OCD. And so
Yeah.
what we're
We
trying to
can't.
do with OCD is,
Written, we can't.
what's that?
Is it we can't fix OCD? Yeah, I
So
heard that.
yeah, so most of the time we're not going to completely get rid of it, but what we are doing is calming down the symptoms so they can get about their life and have relationships that they want and complete their job that they want and go to school as they want to, but we're calming down the symptoms quite a bit. There are some cases where it's gone, but
Mm-hmm.
most of the time we're just calming down the symptoms so that they can get back in the driver's seat of their own life. As far as the shortest time it takes a person to get treated, gosh, there's so many variables with that, but I've seen it happen in 3 to 4 months where the symptoms are
Mm-hmm.
so much calmer that they can get about their life again.
Oh wow, that's great. Guys, if you have any other questions, just please feel free to type it in, so Lisa will be able to answer it. I'm just about to ask one more, and suddenly I forgot. Hold on. So we did mention two. Are there only two, or there's one more without using any medication?
Oh, my laptop's about to die. I got to switch over to my power source. So sorry,
All
guys. Let
right.
me let me move
Okay.
around here a little bit.
No worries. Okay. Hi, Nat. I saw your question. All right. Okay.
I'm ready to go.
Okay. So, like to greet those people who came in. Joshua, say hi, dear. Miss Jenny, hello. Arm Smart, shout out. Um, and then Ronnie, hello. Nanette here has a question. What if, can you hear me well, Lisa?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect.
Okay, so her question is, what if the person is resentful and not open for it, or not accepting the fact that they have OCD, in denial? So there's no self-awareness if that this person, that he or she has OCD. How do we work that out?
Well, just like anything, we can't. I'm sorry, I'm trying to fix my computer here.
No
So,
worries.
well, just like with anything, if a person's depressed, we can't make them go to therapy unless they're court mandated. So some people with OCD, they like it. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but like with the cleaning, there are some people who it might bother everybody else in their family, but for them, it helps them have a sense of agency over their life and they have control over this one thing and they really like it. And so I don't know if that's what this person's referring to, but if she's referring to a situation where we're worried about somebody and they don't understand how bad they are,
Mm-hmm.
and we want them to get some help, you can't make somebody do this. It's really got to be of their own volition. Otherwise, they're doing it for you and they're not going to be bought into the therapy. You know what I mean? It's not for them. So it can be a difficult situation, though, when you're watching a loved one or somebody you live with suffer
Mm-hmm.
needlessly. It is very hard to watch that and just be okay with it. So I think in those cases, um, loving them through this and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that that they can talk to somebody, they feel safe with you, that they can talk about it, and finding resources if they want to pursue it. But sometimes it's baby steps.
Yeah. That's kind of difficult when the person is not aware. Well, I do believe somehow a person with OCD will be aware, but just not open or just so accepting about it that he or she has it. And from what he said, it's just up to the loved ones, the family members, to just basically understand him or her, or maybe try to advise for him or her to go and seek for help.
Well, I think that we need to think about how we would feel if we were doing something that made us feel okay. We were in control and we're okay with the even numbers that we have to have for our panic to go down. And somebody comes up to us, like our brother or sister or spouse, and says, "You've got a problem. You need to get some help," when really I'm okay with it.
Mhm.
So maybe I don't like it and it bothers me and I don't like the panic attacks, but I'm not ready to go see somebody about it. I'm not ready to let go of it because I'm identified with it. I don't know what it's like to be without it. The brain likes what's familiar, and all of a sudden you're asking me to change. Well, that change is really not for me. It's for the other person around me who are uncomfortable with my behaviors.
Mhm.
It's a tough situation.
Yeah, that's a bit hard. Let's say hello, hi Lina, Vinesh. Hi Lina. Yeah, so you have a lot of people watching. So going back, so my question was, do we have only two treatments that um, will not require medicine? Is there one more?
No,
Another?
typically, well, so there's different flavors of this, but basically, the exposure therapy is the number one treatment across the board, and that's a form of cognitive therapies. That's exposure therapy. And then I layer on the EMDR when clinically indicated, when I feel like it might kind of help unblock something. And then, of course,
Mhm.
there's the pharmaceutical end of this too, where most people that I've been working with are already on medication when they come in, and they like the medication most of the time because it's helping them. Yeah.
All right, great. Guys, I can see Jaja just came in. Hello, Ja. If you guys have any other question, just please type it in. Lisa will be happy to answer it for us. Meanwhile, Lisa, maybe you want to talk about your book?
Yeah, I'll share the screen here so I can show it. Um, are you guys able to see this?
No.
No? Okay. Maybe you need to give me the rights to share the screen. Is that what we have to do?
um,
Let's see. Just share your screen. Please install Chrome extension. Oh, okay. I
there
see.
on the left
So,
side, you saw it.
yeah, I see that. That's what I did, but it didn't show. It didn't pop up. So
Oh, okay.
um, let me see here if we can get it. Let's see here. Let me add to Chrome and see if that will work real quick. And if it does, then it will work. So let me try this one more time. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. Um, so can you guys see this?
Okay, it says Lisa ready to share screen. Okay, let's see. Show screen. Yep. But let's see if they are able to see it.
Can you see that?
Uh, they're not. I can, but it's not showing on our Facebook screen. Maybe it will. It's just a bit of a. There's just a bit of a delay. I
Okay.
think it will come shortly. Yeah, but we you can talk about it while we're waiting.
Okay. So this book is called Rice Paper Prison: Breaking Free from OCD, and it's about a young lady who is she only feels safe when she seeks out odd number combinations. She's ashamed, she's exhausted, she has OCD. she's taken to the edge and back in this. It's a gripping story of a young woman who defies all odds and tears her way out of a rice paper prison. But one of the things that it talks about is how important hope is. And we need hope. We need to know that there's something on the other side of this. And I called it rice paper prison because if she only knew that she had self-imposed so much of that herself by the story she told herself. So it's a blend of fact and fiction, with EMDR kind of woven in there as well. But it's got 5-star reviews on Amazon. I'm not saying that to brag. It's just that it's such a hopeful book. And I wrote it for the masses because people feel so alone with OCD. They feel like they're the only ones who have it. I also have a workbook that goes with it. So when you get the book, you get the workbook with it. So it kind of goes along and asks you questions, and it does the exposure with attitude. And so people like that. It's being used at the local OCD support groups here in Idaho and in America. They use that workbook. So it was a journey to write that book, but this event right now is not about my book at all, but it is something that kind of helped give me some credibility in this EMDR treatment, and people were starting to open their minds up to a different kind of treatment, incorporating EMDR along with pharmaceutical treatment, along with the exposure therapy. So I hope that helps.
Okay, let me just. Okay, guys, are you able to see that better now? I just hide Lisa for a while so they can see the book. Okay, because Nanette said we can see but small. Okay, yeah. But don't worry, guys. I'll be sharing the link later on after our talk. You guys can have a look at it. If you guys want to buy it, it's available on Amazon. Yeah. All right. So now they're able to see it clearly, a bit bigger. Yeah. So I'm just so excited, Lisa. I have a request from you. you did you did mention that in this book there's a workbook. So I'm guessing these are like questions to gauge if we have OCD, or probably we do have a little bit of it and we don't know. So I wonder if you have like guide questions for us to answer to find out in ourselves if we have OCD, even just a little bit or something like that. Hi, Mina. Mm.
They don't.
Oh, okay.
I hope that helps. Like now for depression, it might be mild, moderate, or severe, but not OCD. OCD is a
Mm.
pretty narrow.
Yes or no?
What's that?
So it's just yes or no. You have it or you don't have it.
It's a pretty narrow diagnosis, Jenny. Yeah, it's where, but basically the rule is if you're thinking about it more than 1 hour a day for 30 days, it's probably OCD, where it guides everything you do. It affects every domain of your life. You have to do a compulsion to make it go away. Like it's a pretty narrow diagnosis, unlike say clinical depression. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for that. Guys, if you have any questions, please type it in while we have Lisa with us. So she'll be able to answer it. Yeah. So
Then
Lisa,
I've
later
got,
on, you can send me the link of the book so I
yeah, 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 no problem. And then also on my website, I have quite a bit of information on it,
Mhm.
and it's super helpful to kind of. It's a pretty robust website that talks a lot about OCD, and it's just k-counseling.org. But I'll share all that with you afterwards if you like.
Yeah. I just thought it's timely we talk about OCD because people joke around it saying, "Oh, you have OCD, you want everything perfect and all that." Because we want to be enlightened of what OCD is really all about, and it's not a joke. And that's why we want answers from you. So yeah, thank you so much for accepting our invitation once again. It's the second time around, so that it's so lovely to have you always here on our show, our talk show.
Thank you so much. This has been great. I love sharing knowledge. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. So guys, if you have questions, just please type it in. Yeah. All right. So when did you release this book, Lisa? When was this published?
Almost 2 years ago to the day. So yeah.
Yeah. So we have a comment here from Mina saying, "You are awesome, Lisa."
Oh, how nice.
Hi, Coach Lawrence. Welcome. Yeah. So Coach Lawrence just came in. Coach Lawrence, we're talking about OCD, and we have Miss Lisa Shiro here with us to help us to enlighten us more about OCD. Oh, we have Nanette here saying it is very informative. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Nanette.
Yeah. Ninette, actually, Ninette, you are still in the cruise. You're still in the ship, right? But we're hoping for her to come off board soon. Yeah, she is a good friend of ours, one of our best friends, and she's in is it Net? What's the name of the cruise ship again? Yeah, I'm waiting for her to type it in. So they were trapped. But she's coping very good with it, and hopefully we'll have her back here, back home soon. Yeah, yeah. So she said, "I will be home on May 6th finally." Yeah. So she's at the Royal Caribbean. Yeah. So I think everyone knows a lot of Filipinos and other nationalities are still in the cruise ship because of the situation when we had a quarantine. They weren't able to go back to their home countries. But yoo-hoo, she's coming back on May 6th. Yes. All right. Lisa, thank you so much for enlightening us this morning, our end, nighttime, your time. Yeah. And this is actually my first time to do it on Facebook Live. So, woohoo, success. Yeah. Yeah, because the first one we had was on IG Live. It was good. It's just that the recording isn't done the way that I was expecting it. But yeah, all right, guys. If you don't have any other questions, I think we can let Lisa go because what time is it on your end, Lisa?
It is almost 10 o'clock at night on Saturday. That's
Almost ten
okay.
o'clock. Not too late.
No, it's not bad at all.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. So I think we're gonna wrap up. Any final words, Lisa, for us? Just a summary of what we've discussed today. Well, two treatments that I stuck in my head. So that's exposure with attitude and EMDR. Yeah. But final words from you.
Yeah, yeah, I'm so honored to be spreading this knowledge tonight. And there's a lot of misinformation out there, so I would encourage people to go to good sites to get information, and that would be like National Institute of Health, New England Journal of Medicine. I mean, if you really want to look at something like that, otherwise we tend to kind of throw comments out there. But I think as far as like words of wisdom, golden nuggets. It's not so much what happens to you, it's the narration that you attach to it that determines how you're going to respond to it. And we can't make anybody get better. We can't make anybody go to therapy. And
Mhm.
the things that we have control in our life are so little. We really only have control over what we say and what we do and the thoughts we focus on. So focus on the thoughts that make you feel like the better version of you. Let the rest go. It's just noise through your brain. Don't believe all your thoughts. Most of them will be negative. That's just the way the brain is. I wish it wasn't, but that's the survival mode of the brain. So let the negative go through and attach to the positive ones that make you feel better. How'd I do, Jenny?
Good, good. That's absolutely great. Thank you so much, Lisa. It was really, really lovely to have you always here on our talk each Sunday. I hope there's gonna be next time. Uh, yeah. So, guys, for those who are watching, thank you. Shout out, Cassie. Casey, shout out to you. I'd like to thank everyone who participated this morning on our talk. Thank you so much. And Lisa and I hope that we have enlightened you somehow with OCD, because this is something we always talk about, joke about, right? Oh, you have OCD. You are so into details, but it's more into that. So just what Lisa said, let's just be grateful for whatever we have. Just remove all the negative thoughts in our head as much as we can, and just be happy always. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. And thank you so much, Lisa. I hope to see you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Have a good
And guys, I'll
weekend.
be, yeah, same to you. I'm going to post the link of Lisa's book and also her page. And Lisa is very nice. As you can see, it's the second time around that she's with us. She joined us. So whatever, if you have any comments, you have any questions, when Lisa has time, I do believe she'll be able to respond back to you. Just what she did to me. Thank you so much, Lisa. You're such a wonderful person. Thank
You,
you.
Jenny. Bye, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Bye.
Bye.